Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel Code with Surya Official. Today we are going to learn one of the most important concepts, that is forms and input tags in HTML. Forms are the way we collect information from users like login details, email sign up, feedback, or even uploading files. In this video, I will show you step by step how to use the form tag and different types of input tags. By the end of this video, you will be able to create a complete form by yourself. So if you are ready, then let's get started. First, let's quickly make the HTML boilerplate. For that, just type exclamation mark and press enter. So you can see HTML boilerplate has been generated. Let's change the title to Forms and Input Tags in HTML. Inside this body tag, let's create a form tag. So here we have a action attribute which helps the form data will be sent when the user clicks submit. And also we have a method attribute. It tells how the data will be sent. For that we have a two main option, that is get and post. So basically action is where data goes and method is how data is sent. This is our form tag. Now let's start learning about the different input tags inside it. Okay, so before using input tags, let's learn about the label tag. A label is simply the text that describes an input box. So let's generate a label tag and here let's write username. So if I save it and check it in the browser, so you can see the label text is displayed in the browser. Okay, so now let's start with the basic input tag. First, we have the text input. So let's generate the input tag. So this is a self-closing tag. So if I save it and check it, so you can see this input tag. Okay, so we can type it here. So for the input tag, we have a type attribute. So by default, it is text. So still I can able to write the text. Okay, so let's discuss some more attribute for this input tag. So we have a ID attribute and here the ID equal to username. It gives a unique identity to this input box. We can use this ID in CSS to style the input and in the JavaScript to get or change its value. Next, we have the name attribute. So here also we can put the username. This name attribute acts like a key when the form is submitted. For example, if I type my name, the server will receive the username equals Surya. I will show you this all at the end of the video. Okay, so next we have a placeholder attribute. The placeholder attribute is used to show a search hints, for example, text inside an input box. So inside this placeholder, let me write it, enter your name. So if I save it, the text enter your name will appear inside the box. But as soon as the user start typing, the text disappears. And finally, we have the for attribute in the label tag. Okay, so the label for is matched with this ID of this input. So let me write it here, username. So if I save it and check it in the browser, so when I click on the label username, the cursor directly jump into the input box. Okay, so next is the password input. Okay, so before entering into the password input, let me put a line break here. For that, we are going to use br tag. And after the input tag, also we need a to-br tag. Okay, for the line break. So you can see the label text is coming in the top and below we have this input box. Okay, so let's start the password input. Okay, so let's first generate the label text and here label for is password and the label text also password. So after this label text, let me generate the input tag for password. So instead of this type equal to text, I need to remove this text and put it here password. So if I save it and check it, so whatever you type here will be hidden with dots or star. So let's put a line break here as well and after this input password as well. And here also we have a ID attribute with password and name attribute also password. And the placeholder is enter password. So if I save it, so you can see enter password placeholder is displayed in the input box. Next, we have a email input. So for that, let me create another label. Label for is email and the text also email. And let me put a BR tag here for the line break. And let's create the input tag for the email. Here also we have a ID attribute with email and a name attribute with email. Let's put a placeholder with enter email. So if I save it and check it, so you can see we have a username, we have a password, and we have a email input. Okay. So let me put some BR tag here as well. And the next input tag is text area. So again, let me create the label text, and the label for is message, and the label text also message. Let's generate the text area as an input, but here we are going to close this text area. So let's put some BR tag here as well. So you can see this is our text area. So here we can type the message. Okay, so let's put here ID attribute. So the ID is message and name also message. And let's put the placeholder is write your message. Okay, so if I save it and check it in the browser, so you can see the placeholder is displaying in the text area. So let's suppose if you expand this text area, so for that we have another attribute called rows and columns. So let me write for the rows. So let me put it here 5 as the below. So you can see, so it is expand vertically. So I want to change the column as well. So for that we have a calls attribute. So let's put it here 50. If I save it and check it, so you can see horizontally it is expand. So let's go with the number input. So for that again let's generate a label tag, and the label for is age and the text also is. So let's generate the input tag, input and type equal to number. So let's put some BR tag here. So if I save it and check it in the browser, so this looks like a text input. But if I hover it or if I click this input, so you can see we have this top arrow and down arrow. If I click here, increase the number and decrease the number as well. Okay, so we can type the number also, but we can't able to type any text here. Okay, so here you can see anyone can come and type any number. Age is not like that. We are going to put some validation here. So for that we have a min attribute and max attribute. So let me put it here. Min is 18 and max is 60. So in between we are going to put the number. So if I save it and check it, so now you can see I can put anything here. But let me create a button tag here and the text is submit. So if I save it and now you can see if I type it any number and if I try to submit here, so you can see error message value must less than or equal to 60. So let me put it here 10. Again if I try to submit, then you can see value must be greater than or equal to 18. It is taking from 18 to 60. So let me put it here 55. If I try to submit, you can see that form data is submitted. If you can notice here, we have this email input. Okay. So if I try to write something here and try to submit, so it is showing the error message. So let me put the @ symbol. Again, it is showing after @ it is incomplete and .com. Okay. And if I try to submit, you can see it is submitted. So we have another attribute called required. So let me put it here. The username should be required. So let me write the required attribute. So if I save it and try to submit this submit button, you can see it is showing the error message. Please fill out this field. So if I type something and if I try to submit the submit button, the form is submitted. So let's go it for the next input tag, that is our date input. Okay, so let's copy this label text from the top and let me put it here. and here the label text is date of birth, and the label for is DOB. So let me create the input tag, and here input type is date. Okay, and ID is also DOB and name also DOB. So let's put some BR tag here. So if I save it and check it in the browser, so you can see, okay, so we can select the date from this calendar. So next we have a checkbox input. So let's generate the input tag, and here the type is checkbox. So let me put the name as a subscribe and ID also subscribe. So let me put the text also subscribe here. So if I save it and check it in the browser, so here is the checkbox. Okay, so by default, if I want to check this checkbox, so for that we have another attribute called checked. If I save it and check it in the browser, so you can see, so by default the checkbox is checked. Okay, so let's put some BR tag here as well. So let's go with the radio buttons. Okay, so for that we have a label tag, and label for is gender, and label text also gender. And here let me generate the input tag, and type is radio. Okay, and here ID is gender and name also gender, and the text is male. And let's copy this one and paste it here. Let's change the text to female. Okay, so if I save it and check it in the browser, so you can see we have these two radio buttons, male and female. Okay, so by default I want to check the male. So for that we have a checked attribute. So if I save it and check it, so here you can see by default the male is checked. So let's go with the drop down. So here let me generate the label tag, and the label for is country, and the label text also country. So let's generate the drop down. So for that we have a select input. So select, and inside the select we want the option. So let me write it the option tag. So option is India, and let's generate another two option. One is for USA and another one is for UK. So if I save it and check it in the browser, so you can see we have this drop down with this option. So if I select the UK, so you can see UK has been selected. Okay, so for the option we have another attribute called value. Value is IN for the India, and value for the USA is US, and value for the UK is UK. So when we select the option as a USA, automatically the values goes to US. So let's discuss the another input field set. Let's generate the field set. So inside the field set, so we have a legend tag. So basically this legend text is displaying as a label. So here the label is personal info. So if I save it, so you can see the personal info is showing as a label. Okay, inside that, let me generate a label text for first name, and the label for is app name. And let me generate an input tag here. Type is text, ID is app name, and name also app name. And let me put a placeholder first name. So if I save it, so you can see the first name is displayed inside this field set. Okay, so let's copy this label and input for the last name. So let's change the text as a last name, and the label for also L name. Okay, so let me paste here ID also L name and name also L name. So let's change the placeholder as a last name. So if I save it and check it in the browser, so before that, let me put some BR tag here. Save it and check it. So you can see this is our first name and last name, and this personal info is our field set. Okay, so the last one is button input. So here I already show you the submit button. So let me write it here. Type is submit. So you can see. So let me put the username as my name, and password is 123456, and email is surya@yopmail.com, and message is test message. Age is something like 25, and date of birth is 12 September. Gender is male, and country is India, and first name is Surya, and last name is Panda. So if you can observe here, so if I try to hit the submit button, so you can see here the form data is submitting to the server. This username is our name attribute. Here you can see username, password, email, message, and many more. These all are acting as the key. So these all are coming from the name attribute. So if I go back to our code, and if you can see here, so this name attribute is helping the data to send to the server. So this is our submit button which submit the data to the server. Okay, so I want to reset also. So we have another button tag. So the button type is reset. And here the text is also reset. So if I fill all the input text and instead of submit button, I want to reset the entire form. So for that, if you can notice here, if I click this reset button, you can see all the input text reset. Okay, so in this video, you learn all the forms and input text in HTML. So that's it for today's video. If you found this video really helpful, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Code with Surya Official, and check out the full playlist for the complete HTML and CSS course. Thanks for watching. Keep learning and happy coding. See you in the next video.